The Odyssey is Christopher Nolan's new film that is an adaptation of the epic poem composed by Homer. We follow the story surrounding Odysseus and his perilous journey home that spans decades from the sacking of Troy. You also follow his wife Penelope and his son Tom Holland, who are waiting for Odysseus' return whilst unruly suitors in their home attempt to court Penelope to claim the empty throne, whilst the son seeks out to find news about his father. Despite the cast and set pieces, this whole film feels like a classical tale in a time of apparent magic. There is just something special about this, as this film is very beautiful as well as very haunting. I went into it expecting a typical hero's journey with mythological creatures and sword fights and fucking bow and arrows along the way, which, don't get me wrong, we did get that, but a thing that genuinely caught me off guard was how thematically dense this is. It carried the same weight as Nolan's previous work Oppenheimer, in the sense of how that film explores human nature, morals, and values in terms of progress and destruction. Despite Oppenheimer being a key figure in scientific progress, it was at the cost of fueling mass destruction. The Odyssey is similar, but in a more philosophical sense, as Odysseus' cunning plan of the Trojan horse to enter and sack the city of Troy violates the key tenet of Zeus's law, which is a law that is mentioned throughout the film. Although his plan is what made them win the war, but it's in his journey home is where Odysseus' battle begins, as his stops along the way where he encounters a man-eating cyclops, literal fucking giant, sirens, whirlpools, literally just facing the wrath of gods, which sort of mirrors of what he has done by violating Zeus's law. But it's the line, "to burn the walls of Troy was to burn the world entire," is what sort of bow-tied the thematic and philosophical element of this film for me. His actions that betrayed a code and conduct, turning soldiers and people into violent monsters and innocent people getting hurt, which sort of destroys and disturbs a civilization, which results in punishment of Odysseus and his crews, but also their wills and morals are also tested. I can only assume that Homer's poems displays Odysseus as this hero going on a terrifying and exciting journey, and that Nolan flipped the table by turning Odysseus as this almost anti-hero who has masterminded this act in hopes for the good and to win the war, but to ultimately be faced with guilt of the lives that were lost because of this. Ashamed by this, that he even starts to wonder that if he even wants to go home. Which brings on another reason why I really like this. The story at its core is kind of romantic. Odysseus going through hell to make it home to Penelope, who awaits for him, but when he returns home, there is this dramatic irony that plays where he pretends to be a beggar, seeing how things are at home, to then realize shit's kinda gone up creek. But ultimately, the build up to the climax of the film with the bow and the 12 axes, it's just fucking awesome. But you also kind of see how loyal Odysseus and Penelope are to each other, and it's kind of beautiful. This film just sort of felt monumental in the sense of it genuinely feels like a story that you're being told while sat around a campfire and you're just engaged. I think everyone and their mother knows the fact that this is Nolan's biggest film, considering the cast, the budget, the story, and the fact that it's the first film to be ever shot entirely in 70mm IMAX. I watched this in digital IMAX, so although I didn't get the full experience, but I can safely say that without the IMAX scale, this film wouldn't have felt as epic as it did if I were to watch it in a standard widescreen. But I think that'll probably take a rewatch for me to confirm, but I don't know, I think the IMAX does help with this film. But also the soundtrack of this film is just exquisite. Ludwig Göransson proves once again that he's probably one of the best film composers going so far, on par with Hans Zimmer. Safe to say his work in this is probably his magnum opus, feeling like a culmination as well as innovation of his previous works. I haven't been able to shake the tune of Odysseus off, as it's just stuck in my mind, but there's something about it that is just emotionally striking. And then when you factor in the scene it plays and how it works well with the themes, it's just chef's kiss. In a way, this is Christopher Nolan's one battle after another, or in a more literal case, one island after another. Just the synergy of an engaging film with striking themes delivered with technical grace. It does feel like Nolan made this just because a lot of people complain that Oppenheimer is just 3 hours of people talking, so he took it upon himself to create something with action but has the same emotional gravity as Oppenheimer, but I don't know. The Odyssey is an ambitious and compelling epic tale that leaves an aftertaste for its contemporary and philosophical themes. It earns the certified banger stamp of approval. I'm not gonna give this an arbitrary number to it, just because I really want to rewatch this, because this film is really special and awesome, and I can only pray that one day I'll witness either this or any other Christopher Nolan film in 70mm IMAX. And I don't know, headcanon, The Odyssey is probably the conclusion of another Nolan trilogy that goes backwards through time, because logically speaking, The Odyssey is a prequel to Oppenheimer, which tackles similar themes and ideas, and Oppenheimer is a prequel to Tenet, which mentions Oppenheimer, but also touches upon fate and determinism and how, quote, the bomb that doesn't go off is the one that can change the world. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out, and let me know what you thought of The Odyssey. Is it a masterpiece or just something glazed? Because I'm gonna admit it, I'm a Nolan fanboy. Or have you not seen it because you don't have an IMAX near you? But yeah, on that note, thanks for hearing me out, and have a good night.